"Uncle, this doesn't feel right. Please stop," I said, my voice trembling. His actions seemed unusual, and I knew I needed to get out of there. Alex's words had an unsettling tone. His actions made me uneasy, and I knew I had to act fast. I'll never forget the day my father passed away. It was like my whole world came crashing down. I was only 18 years old at that time, and my father was the rock of our family. He was the one who provided for us, who took care of us, and who made us feel safe. Without him, everything felt uncertain and scary. My mother tried to hold everything together, but it was clear that she was struggling. We had no money, no food, and no idea how we were going to survive. My younger brother, Kamzi, was only 10 years old at that time, and he didn't really understand what was happening, but I did. I knew that our lives were never going to be the same again. One day, as we sat in our small compound, trying to come to terms with our new reality, I heard a knock at the door. It was my uncle, Alex. He was my father's brother, and he had always been kind to us. Alex came in and hugged my mother, offering his condolence. He promised to help us in any way he could, and my mother thanked him gratefully. I was just relieved that someone was there to help us. In the days that followed, Alex was true to his word. He helped us with food, clothing, and even paid some of our bills. My mother was incredibly grateful, and I was too. It was a huge weight lifted off our shoulders to have someone helping us out. One day, Alex sat down with my mother and me and offered to help me with my education. He said that he wanted to make sure I had every opportunity to succeed, and that he would pay for my school fees, books, and even tutoring if I needed it. My mother was overjoyed and thanked Alex profusely. I was happy too, but also a bit surprised. I hadn't expected Alex to be so generous, but I was grateful nonetheless. Alex smiled and patted me on the back, saying that he just wanted to help. He told me that I was a bright girl, and that he had no doubt I would do great things. I felt a surge of pride and gratitude towards him, and I thanked him again for his kindness. As Alex left our compound that day, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay after all. Over the next few weeks, Alex became a regular visitor to our compound. He would come by almost every day, bringing food or clothes, and spending time with my mother, my brother, and me. At first, it was nice to have him around. He was always smiling and laughing, and he had a way of making us feel like everything was going to be okay. But as time went on, I started to feel a bit uncomfortable around Alex. He would often find excuses to touch me, to pat me on the back, or to hold my hand. It wasn't anything overtly inappropriate, but it still made me feel uneasy. I tried to brush it off, to tell myself that I was just being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. I started to dread Alex's visits, to feel anxious whenever he came to our compound. My mother didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary though. She was just grateful for Alex's help, and she would often thank him and praise him for his kindness. I didn't want to worry my mother, so I kept my feelings to myself. But as his visits continued, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One day, Alex came to our compound and asked to speak with me alone. My mother, thinking nothing of it, sent me to sit with him in the living room. Alex smiled at me and said, "Maya, I've been thinking. You're a very bright girl, and I want to help you succeed. I have a friend who works at a very good school, and I think I can get you a scholarship there." I was taken aback by the offer. It sounded too good to be true, but at the same time, it was exactly what I needed. I had always dreamed of attending a good school, and now it seemed like that dream might actually come true. Alex smiled at me again and said, "But I need you to do something for me in return. I need you to come to my house and help me with some chores. My wife is away for long, and I could use some help keeping the house tidy." I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say, but Alex's offer was too tempting to resist. I agreed to help him, and he smiled at me, seeming pleased. As he left the living room, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had agreed to something I might regret. The next day, I went to Alex's house to help him with the chores. As I walked in, I noticed that the house was spotlessly clean, and I wondered why he needed my help. Alex greeted me warmly and showed me to the kitchen, where he had laid out a snack for me. We chatted for a bit, and then he showed me the tasks he needed help with. As I worked, I couldn't help but feel a bit uncomfortable. Alex was always lurking around, watching me, and making comments about how nice I looked. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that he was just being friendly. But as the day wore on, I started to feel more and more uneasy. Alex's comments became more and more personal, and I began to wonder if I had made a mistake by coming here. Just as I was starting to feel really uncomfortable, Alex's phone rang. "I will have to take the call in my study," he said, and I could tell by his tone that it was an important call. As he left the room, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I realized that I had been holding my breath, waiting for him to make a move. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down, telling myself that I was just being paranoid. As I waited for Alex to finish his call, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had settled in my stomach. I tried to focus on the task at hand, but my mind kept wandering back to Alex's behavior. Why was Alex being so nice to me? What did he want in return? I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to Alex's offer of help than met the eye. As I worked, I heard his voice in the background, speaking in low tones on the phone. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but his tone sounded serious. After what felt like an eternity, he finally emerged from his study, a smile plastered on his face. "Sorry about that," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I had to take care of some business calls." I forced a smile onto my face, trying to appear nonchalant. "It's okay, Uncle," I said. "Well, I think that's enough for today," he said. "Why don't you head home, and we'll catch up again soon?" I nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. I couldn't wait to get out of there and back to the safety of my own home. As I left his house, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had to be careful. Over the next few weeks, I continued to visit Alex's house to help with chores, but with each passing day, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. His behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. One minute, Alex would be smiling and laughing, and the next, his face would darken. One day, I was cleaning Alex's bedroom when he approached me. His expression carried an unusual intensity as he said, "You know, I've been thinking, you're so helpful around the house. I think it's high time we had a little chat about your role here." I felt a shiver run down my spine as his words sent a warning signal to my brain. Something didn't feel right. As Alex spoke, his voice seemed to take on a shady tone. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid, but the feeling persisted. "What do you mean, Uncle?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. His smile grew wider. "I mean, I have been providing all your needs, including that of your family, for quite a long time now. Nothing comes without a price. I think it's time you show some appreciation." I felt uneasy as his tone suggested something unexpected. I tried to take a step back, but my feet seemed rooted to the spot. Alex took a step closer to me, his eyes glinting with a dubious intensity. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I tried to process what was happening. "Uncle, this doesn't feel right. Please stop," I said, my voice trembling. I felt unsettled, my mind searching for a solution. Just as I was growing more anxious, I heard a loud knock at the door. Alex paused, and I took advantage of the distraction to break free. I didn't hesitate. I made a run for the door, flinging it open to reveal a concerned-looking neighbor, Ketchy, standing on the porch. "Thank goodness you're here," I exclaimed, relief washing over me. Ketchy's expression turned stern as Alex appeared behind me, his face twisted in a scowl. "What's going on here?" Ketchy demanded. Alex's expression smoothed out, and he smiled sweetly. "Just a little misunderstanding," he said. But I knew the truth, and I knew I had to get out of there fast. I didn't hesitate. I turned to Ketchy and said, "Please, Ma, can I come with you? I need to get out of here." Ketchy's expression turned concerned, and she nodded. "Of course, dear. Come with me." I followed Ketchy to her house, my heart still racing with fear. Once we were safely inside, Ketchy turned to me and asked, "What happened back there?" I took a deep breath and told Nkechi everything about Alex's strange behavior, the unsettling atmosphere in the house, and the uncomfortable moment when Alex stood too close. Ketchy listened attentively, her expression growing more and more concerned. When I finished, she nodded and said, "You're safe now. You can stay here with me until we figure out what to do next." I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Finally, I had found someone who believed me, someone who could help me escape the grasp of Alex's uncomfortable advances. But as I looked back at Alex's house, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't safe yet, that Alex was still out there, waiting for me. The next day, as I settled into Nkechi's house, she immediately picked up the phone and dialed a number. "I'm calling the police," she explained to me. "We'll get Alex arrested for what he has done." I felt a surge of relief wash over me as I listened to Nkechi explain the situation to the authorities. Within minutes, the police arrived at the house, and Alex was taken into custody. As I watched Alex being led away, I felt a sense of closure and vindication. It was finally over. I had faced my fears and brought the perpetrator to justice. The police officer in charge, a kind and compassionate woman named Ada, took a statement from me and promised to do everything in her power to ensure Alex faced justice. With Alex behind bars, I finally felt safe. I thanked Nkechi and Officer Ada for their help and support, knowing I couldn't have made it through this ordeal without them. As the days passed, I began to feel a sense of normalcy return to my life. I was finally able to sleep at night, without fearing Alex's wrath. Officer Ada kept me updated on the progress of the case against Alex. She told me that the prosecution had a strong case, and it was likely that Alex would face serious consequences for his actions. I also started attending counseling sessions to deal with the emotional challenges I had experienced. My counselor, Uche, was kind and understanding, and she helped me work through my feelings and develop coping strategies. Thanks to the support of Nkechi, Officer Ada, and Uche, I was finally able to start healing and moving on from my ordeal. But just as things were starting to look up, I received some unexpected news. Officer Ada called me to say that Alex had been denied bail and was being held in custody until his trial. However, there was a catch. Alex's lawyer was attempting to question my credibility, suggesting that I might not be truthful. My heart sank as I realized that the nightmare was far from over. I would have to face Alex in court. As the trial date approached, I felt my anxiety spiking. I had to testify against Alex, and the thought of facing him in court was terrifying. Uche, my counselor, worked with me to prepare for the trial. She helped me practice relaxation techniques and rehearsed my testimony with me. Officer Ada also kept me updated on the case and assured me that the prosecution had a strong case against Alex. On the day of the trial, I arrived at the courthouse feeling nervous but determined. Nkechi and Officer Ada were there to support me, and my counselor Uche had also come to offer her encouragement. Before I took the stand in the courtroom, I said a word of prayer to get the justice I deserved. I saw Alex standing in the defendant's chair, his eyes fixed on me with a malevolent glare. But I refused to back down. With a steady voice, I told the court about the exploitation I had suffered at Alex's hands. I recounted the incidents, the threats, and the fear that had become my constant companion. The prosecutor asked me questions, and I answered truthfully. My eyes locked on Alex's. I could see the anger and hatred in his eyes, but I didn't flinch. After I finished testifying, the prosecutor presented the rest of the evidence, including the records of my hospital visits and the testimony of other witnesses. The defense attorney tried to question my credibility, but I stood firm, my story unwavering. Finally, the jury delivered their verdict. Alex was found guilty on all counts. As the judge sentenced Alex to prison, I felt a sense of closure and vindication. It was finally over. I had faced my fears and ensured that the one who caused me distress was held accountable. I was happy, but felt a little bit of uneasiness that my mother was unaware of the happenings. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was finally over. Alex was going to pay for what he had done. Nkechi and Officer Ada were waiting for me outside, big smiles on their faces. "We're so proud of you," Nkechi said, enveloping me in a warm hug. Officer Ada nodded in agreement. "You were brave and strong throughout this whole ordeal. You deserve justice, and now you've got it." Uche, my counselor, was also there, beaming with pride. "I'm so proud of you, Maya," she said. "You've come a long way, and you deserve to heal and move on." I smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude towards these women who had supported me every step of the way. I knew I still had a long way to go, but for the first time in years, I felt hopeful. As we walked out of the courthouse, I took a deep breath, feeling the warm sun on my face. I knew that I would always carry the scars of the one who caused me distress, but I also knew that I was strong enough to overcome them. I was finally free. Moral lesson: never trust someone who is being overly nice or generous, especially if you don't know their true intentions. It's always better to be cautious and prioritize your safety and well-being. In this story, Alex presented himself as a kind and generous uncle who wanted to help Maya and her family. However, his true intentions were unsettling, and he had ulterior motives for his actions. Maya's caution and instincts ultimately saved her from harm, and she was able to seek help and bring Alex to justice.
Thank you for watching. Please encourage us by subscribing to our YouTube channel if you are new to the channel. And special shout out to our returning subscribers.